The communication array on the Galactic Council station lit up with an unusual signal. It came from a small blue planet in the outer rim of the galaxy. The message was simple and direct. Hello. We are humans from Earth. We would like to join your galactic community. Please respond when you have time. Ambassador Tejo read the message 3 times. In his 200 years of diplomatic service, he had never seen such a casual first contact attempt. Most species either begged for help or declared war when they discovered they were not alone in the universe. Sunmi, come look at this, Tejo called to his science officer. She walked over, her blue skin shimmering under the station lights. Sunmi studied the message. They seem very calm about finding aliens. Are you sure this is their first attempt at interstellar communication? According to our scans, yes. They just figured out faster-than-light communication last week. Tejo scratched his head with one of his forearms. Most species spend months crafting their first message to make sure they sound important or desperate enough for help. Kiwan, the military strategist, joined them at the communication station. His red eyes glowed as he read the message. This is either very clever psychology or complete ignorance. I cannot tell which. There is only one way to find out, Tejo said. We go there and meet them face to face. The journey to Earth took 3 days in their fastest diplomatic ship. As they approached the solar system, they sent a message announcing their arrival. The response came back within minutes. Great. We have been waiting for you. Captain Do-Yun Kim of the Soul's Pride will meet you at the edge of our solar system. He will guide you to Earth. Hope you like coffee. Kiwan stared at the message. They hope we like coffee? What is coffee? Some kind of local beverage, I think, Sunmi replied. They are treating this like we are visiting neighbors. The Soul's Pride was a small ship compared to their diplomatic vessel. It looked like humans had built it from spare parts and hope. Captain Do-Yun's face appeared on their screen. He was smiling widely. Welcome to our neighborhood, Do-Yun said, waving his hand. I am Captain Kim. Please follow me to Earth. The trip will take about 6 hours. We have prepared a nice meeting room for everyone. Tejo looked at his crew. He said neighborhood like we live next door. And he is smiling, Kiwan observed. Most species are either terrified or trying to look powerful during first contact. This human looks like he is greeting old friends. They followed the human ship to Earth. The planet was beautiful but looked dangerous. Sunmi's sensors showed massive storms, earthquakes, and volcanic activity. She could not understand how any intelligent life survived there. When they landed at the meeting facility, more humans were waiting for them. They all looked relaxed and happy. Some were holding cups of the dark liquid called coffee. Hye-jin, the lead human negotiator, stepped forward. She was a middle-aged woman with short black hair and a business suit. Welcome to Earth. I hope your trip was comfortable. Would you like some coffee or tea before we start? Start what? Tejo asked, confused. The meeting, of course. We have prepared our application to join the galactic community. We also have some questions about trade agreements and cultural exchange programs. Hye-jin spoke like she was planning a corporate merger, not making contact with alien life. Sunmi whispered to Tejo. Where is the panic? The religious crisis? The government collapse? This is not normal first contact behavior. Maybe they are in shock, Kiwan suggested quietly. Hye-jin led them to a conference room. It looked like any business meeting room, complete with a presentation screen and comfortable chairs. She handed each alien a folder. Here is our application. We have included information about our planet, our species, our technology level, and our goals for joining the galactic community. We also have some Earth snacks if you get hungry. Tejo opened the folder. The application was organized, professional, and thorough. It read like a job application, not a plea for help from a primitive species. You seem very prepared for this, he said. Of course, Hye-jin replied, looking puzzled. We have been planning for this day since we discovered other intelligent life exists. We figured you would eventually contact us or we would contact you. Either way, we wanted to be ready. But how did you know we existed? Sunmi asked. Mathematic bang, said Dr. Junho, another human in the room. With billions of galaxies and trillions of stars, it would be impossible for Earth to be the only planet with intelligent life. We have been looking for you for decades. Kiwan leaned forward. Were you not afraid of what we might be like? We could have been conquerors or destroyers. The humans looked at each other and laughed. Not mean laughter, but genuine amusement. Well, yes, that was possible, Hye-jin said. But we figured we would deal with that problem if it happened. Most likely you would be reasonable people like us, just from different planets. Reasonable people like us, Tejo repeated slowly. These humans thought alien contact was a normal, everyday occurrence. They had no idea how unique their calm reaction was. Duyan poured himself more coffee. So what is the next step? Do we need to fill out more forms? Take some kind of test? We are ready for whatever the process requires. Actually, Tejo said carefully, we usually spend several months studying a new species before considering their application. We need to understand your culture, your history, your capabilities. That makes sense, Hyejin nodded. Would you like to stay on Earth while you do your research? We have prepared guest facilities. You can observe our daily life, visit our cities, meet our people. We want you to get a complete picture of humanity. Sunmi felt a chill run down her spine. Something was very wrong with this picture, but she could not identify what it was. These humans were too calm, too prepared, too normal about the most abnormal situation in the galaxy. That would be very helpful, Tejo said. We accept your invitation. As the meeting ended, the humans showed them to comfortable rooms with Earth-style furniture. They provided books about human history and culture. They offered to arrange tours of cities, museums, and schools. That night, in their guest quarters, the three aliens held a private meeting. Something is not right about these humans, Kiwan said. No species acts this normal during first contact. Maybe they are more advanced than they appear, Sunmi suggested. Maybe this is all an act to make us think they are primitive. Tejo shook his head. I do not think they are acting. I think they genuinely believe this is normal behavior. That might be the most disturbing thing of all. Outside their window, the lights of human cities stretched to the horizon. Somewhere out there, millions of humans were going about their normal lives, completely unaware that their casual reaction to alien contact was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The real question was, what else did humans consider normal? Sunmi decided to start her cultural research at a human school. She wanted to understand how humans taught their young. What she saw there would haunt her for the rest of her life. The human children were playing something called tag in the schoolyard. Sunmi watched in growing horror as one child chased the others, trying to touch them. When touched, a child would scream and then become the hunter. They are training their young to hunt each other, Sunmi whispered into her communication device. The children laugh while being hunted. They enjoy it. The human teacher, Ms. Yu Jin, noticed Sunmi's distress. Is something wrong? The children are just playing tag. It is a very common game. But why do they pretend to hunt each other? Sunmi asked, her voice shaking. Yujin looked confused. It is just fun. They run around, get exercise, and learn to be quick. All human children play games like this. Sunmi made careful notes. Human children were trained from birth to view predator-prey relationships as entertainment. This explained their calm reaction to meeting aliens. They had been practicing for danger their entire lives. Meanwhile, Tejo was experiencing his own cultural shock. His human guide, Minho, had taken him to something called a football game. The stadium held 50,000 humans, all screaming with bloodthirsty enthusiasm. On the field, large humans in armor crashed into each other at full speed. The crowd cheered every violent collision. When one player was tackled so hard he could not get up, the humans cheered even louder. Are we watching gladiators fight to the death? Tejo asked, gripping his seat. Minho laughed and offered him a bag of something called nachos. No, this is just football. It is our most popular sport. These players are very skilled athletes, but they are trying to hurt each other. Well, yes, but within the rules. Nobody is supposed to get seriously hurt, usually. Minho took a sip of his beer. You should see our hockey games. Those are really exciting. Tejo watched the crowd around him. Children as young as 5 years old were screaming for their team to destroy the opponents. Parents were teaching their babies to chant for violence, and everyone acted like this was perfectly normal family entertainment. How many people die in these games? Tejo asked. Die? Nobody dies. Well, almost nobody. Maybe 1 or 2 players per year across all levels, but that is usually from heart attacks or really bad accidents. Minho said this like it was a good safety record. Tejo made notes on his device. Humans considered death an acceptable risk for entertainment. Their young were trained to enjoy watching violence. Their entire culture was built around normalized aggression. Kiwan was having his own disturbing experience. He had requested to visit a human military base to understand their defense capabilities. Colonel Yunwoo Park was giving him a tour of the facilities. This is our basic training ground. Yunwu explained as they watched young humans crawling through mud under barbed wire, while instructors shouted at them. We teach our soldiers to handle stress and follow orders under difficult conditions. The humans being trained looked like they were being tortured, but they were volunteering for this treatment. Some of them were even smiling. Do they enjoy this suffering? Kiwan asked. Many of them do. Humans like challenges. The harder something is, the more proud we feel when we complete it. Yunwu pointed to a group doing push-ups in the rain. Those soldiers requested extra training. They want to be the best. Kiwan watched a young woman carry a heavy pack while running up a steep hill. She was clearly in pain, but she was also singing a marching song with her fellow soldiers. What happens if they fail the training? Kiwan asked. They try again. Humans do not give up easily. Some of these soldiers have attempted this training course 5 or 6 times. Yunwu spoke with obvious pride. Kiwan realized that humans trained their warriors by making them suffer voluntarily. They competed to see who could endure the most pain. And they sang songs while doing it. The cultural exchange reached its worst point during dinner at a traditional Korean restaurant. The human chef, Jae-sung, was excited to show the aliens authentic Earth cuisine. He brought out dish after dish of what he called delicious Korean food. The aliens stared at the plates in horror. This is bulgogi, Jae-sung explained happily. Marinated beef. Very tender and flavorful. Beef? Sunmi asked weakly. Yes, from cows. We raise them on farms specifically for eating. This dish is galbi, pork ribs, also very popular. And this is samgyetang, chicken soup with ginseng. Very healthy. The 3 aliens sat frozen as Jae-sung continued describing various dead animals that humans consumed for pleasure. He talked about the different ways they killed, prepared, and cooked living creatures as if he were discussing the weather. You eat other living beings? Taeho managed to ask. Of course. How else would we get protein? We also eat plants, but meat is an important part of our diet. Jae-sung noticed their expressions. Are you vegetarians? I can prepare some vegetable dishes if you prefer. You have a choice? Kiwan asked. Sure. Some humans choose not to eat meat for health or ethical reasons, but most of us eat both plants and animals. We are omnivores. Jae-sung said this like it was basic biology, which for humans it apparently was. Sunmi excused herself and ran to the bathroom where she was violently sick. The idea that an entire species casually consumed other living creatures for daily sustenance was beyond her comprehension. When she returned, pale and shaking, Jae-sung looked concerned. Are you feeling all right? Maybe the kimchi was too spicy for you. Kimchi? She whispered. Fermented vegetables. We let them rot in a controlled way to make them taste better and last longer. Jae-sung smiled proudly. Humans have been eating fermented foods for thousands of years. Taeho took careful notes. Humans not only killed other creatures for food, but they also deliberately let their plant food decay before eating it. And they considered both practices normal, healthy, and enjoyable. That evening, the 3 aliens met in their guest quarters. They were all clearly traumatized by their day of cultural observation. The children train for violence from birth, Sunmi reported. They call it playing. The adults gather in massive groups to watch organized combat, Taeho added. They bring their families and celebrate the injuries. Their military trains by voluntary suffering, Kiwan said. They compete to see who can endure the most pain, and they consume other living beings for survival, Sunmi finished. They have industrialized murder and call it farming. The 3 aliens sat in silence, processing what they had learned. These humans were not just different from other galactic species. They were fundamentally alien in ways that no previous first contact had prepared them for. What kind of species considers all of this normal? Taeho asked. The kind that evolved in hell, Kiwan replied grimly. Outside their window, the human city continued its normal evening routine. Families were gathering for dinner, eating their meals of dead animals and rotted vegetables. Children were playing hunting games before bedtime. Adults were watching recorded violence on their entertainment systems, and every single human thought this was perfectly normal behavior for intelligent beings. The aliens were beginning to realize that understanding humanity was going to be far more difficult and disturbing than anyone at the Galactic Council had imagined. These humans had normalized behaviors that would be considered barbaric war crimes on most civilized worlds. The question was no longer whether humans were ready to join galactic civilization. The question was whether galactic civilization was ready for humans. Sunmi spent the next week studying Earth's environment and biological history. What she discovered made her previous observations seem pleasant by comparison. Earth was not just any planet. It was a Class 12 death world, the most dangerous category in the galactic classification system. She studied the geological records with growing amazement and terror. Earth had survived multiple extinction events that had wiped out entire evolutionary chains. Asteroid impacts, supervolcanic eruptions, ice ages, and massive climate shifts had repeatedly sterilized most life on the planet. "Insu," she said to her human guide, a geologist from Seoul National University, "your planet has tried to kill everything on it at least 5 times in the past few 100 million years." Insu nodded cheerfully while showing her core samples. "Yes, we call them mass extinction events. The dinosaurs got wiped out by an asteroid about 65 million years ago. Before that, there was the Great Dying that killed 90% of all life. Pretty dramatic stuff. But how did anything survive?" Sunmi asked, her voice cracking. "Life is very stubborn on Earth. Something always manages to hang on and evolve into new forms. That is how we got here." Insu pulled out his phone and showed her vacation photos. "Look, this is me at Mount Vesuvius in Italy. That volcano destroyed entire cities in ancient times. Now it is a great tourist spot." Sunmi stared at the photos of Insu smiling and posing next to an active volcano. The heat readings showed temperatures that would instantly kill most galactic species, yet this human was treating it like a fun day trip. "You visit active volcanoes for entertainment," she whispered. "Sure, volcanic areas are beautiful and scientifically interesting. You just have to be careful and follow safety guidelines." Insu scrolled through more photos. "This is me in Yellowstone standing near geysers of boiling water. And this is from my trip to Antarctica, where I studied ice core samples in -40-degree weather." Sunmi realized that humans routinely expose themselves to environmental conditions that would be immediately fatal to most galactic life forms. They called it tourism. She continued studying Earth's current environmental threats. The planet was constantly trying to kill its inhabitants through hurricanes, earthquakes, tsunamis, tornadoes, floods, droughts, and volcanic eruptions. Most inhabited worlds had maybe 1 or 2 natural disasters per century. Earth had dozens every year. "Your species lives under constant environmental attack," she told Insu. "How do you function psychologically?" Insu shrugged. "You learn to deal with it. We have warning systems, emergency procedures, insurance policies. Most natural disasters only affect small areas. Life goes on, but people die in these disasters. Yes, unfortunately, but many more people survive. Humans are very good at adapting and helping each other during emergencies." Insu spoke like death by natural disaster was just another inconvenience, like traffic jams or bad weather. Meanwhile, Kiwon was learning about human military history from Colonel Yunwoo. What he discovered made him question everything he thought he knew about warfare. "Humans have been fighting continuously for your entire recorded history?" Kiwon asked, staring at the timeline display. "Pretty much," Yunwoo confirmed. "There has never been a period when humans somewhere on Earth were not at war with other humans. We estimate that only about 10% of human history has been completely peaceful, and that was usually just because populations were too small or separated to fight." Kiwon studied the weapons development timeline. Humans had progressed from throwing rocks to building nuclear weapons in just a few thousand years. Most species took hundreds of thousands of years to develop such destructive capability, if they ever did at all. "You developed weapons that could destroy your entire planet?" Kiwon asked. "Several times over, actually. At one point, we had enough nuclear weapons to destroy Earth about 10 times. We have reduced that number significantly, but we could still end all life on the planet if we really tried." Yunwoo said this like he was discussing crop yields. "Why would you build such weapons?" "Initially to fight other humans. Then we realized they were too dangerous to actually use, so they became deterrents. Now we keep some for potential asteroid defense or other planetary threats." Yunwoo pulled up more displays. "We also developed biological and chemical weapons, but we banned most of those through international treaties." Kiwon felt faint. "You banned your own weapons because they were too terrible even for humans?" "Some of them, yes. We decided certain weapons were too inhumane for warfare." Yunwoo paused. "Of course, we kept detailed records of how to make them, just in case we ever need them again." The military tour continued with demonstrations of conventional human weapons. Kiwan watched soldiers practice with rifles that could kill from over a kilometer away. He saw artillery that could level entire city blocks. He learned about military strategy that assumed massive casualties as acceptable losses. "What is your current military focus?" Kiwan asked. "We are developing space-capable defense systems," Yunwu replied casually. "Since we are joining the galactic community, we want to be prepared for potential conflicts with other species." Kiwan stared at him. "You are already preparing for interstellar warfare?" "Not preparing to start wars," Yunwu clarified. "But we want to be ready to defend ourselves if necessary. History has taught us that peace is temporary. Conflict is inevitable." That evening, Taeho joined his colleagues for their daily debriefing. They sat in their guest quarters struggling to process the information they had gathered. "Earth is a death world that has been trying to exterminate all life for billions of years," Sunmi reported. "Humans evolved to survive conditions that would kill most galactic species instantly. They have been at war continuously throughout their entire history," Kiwan added. "They developed planet-killing weapons as a hobby, and now treat interstellar warfare as an inevitable future project." Taeho looked at his notes from the day. He had spent time with Dr. Kyung-soo, a human physician learning about human medical capabilities. "Their medicine is as disturbing as everything else," Taeho said. "They routinely cut open living bodies and replace failing organs with organs from dead humans. They call it surgery, and they do it for entertainment purposes as well as medical necessity." "Entertainment surgery?" Sunmi asked. "Cosmetic modification. They alter their bodies to look different for aesthetic reasons. Some humans have hundreds of these voluntary surgeries." Taeho consulted his notes. "They also inject themselves with weakened diseases to prevent stronger diseases. They call it vaccination." "They deliberately infect themselves with diseases?" Kiwan asked. "As a medical treatment, and it works. They have eliminated several deadly diseases this way." Taeho continued reading. "They also poison themselves in controlled doses for recreation. They call it drinking alcohol." The three aliens sat in stunned silence. Humans lived on a planet that constantly tried to kill them. They had spent their entire history fighting each other with increasingly devastating weapons. They voluntarily cut open their bodies, infected themselves with diseases, and consumed poisons for fun. And they thought all of this was normal. "There is something else," Taeho said quietly. "Dr. Kyung-soo told me that humans can survive injuries that would be fatal to most species. They can lose limbs and continue fighting. They can lose massive amounts of blood and recover. They can survive organ failure, brain damage, and conditions that would kill us instantly." "How is that possible?" Sunmi asked. "Evolution on a death world. Their bodies are designed to survive extreme trauma because their planet has been traumatizing them for millions of years." Taeho looked at his colleagues. "We are not dealing with a normal species that happens to be violent. We are dealing with the ultimate survivors, beings who have been forged by the worst conditions in the galaxy and somehow learned to thrive." Kiwan stood up and began pacing. "And they think they are ordinary. They have no idea how remarkable their survival capabilities are because this is their normal." Outside their window, the human city continued its routine evening activities. Somewhere out there, humans were performing surgery on each other, injecting themselves with vaccines, drinking poison for recreation, and planning their weekend trips to active volcanoes. All of it was just another normal day on the death world called Earth. The aliens were beginning to understand that they were not just studying another species. They were studying the most successful survivors in galactic history, beings so adapted to extreme conditions that they had normalized the impossible. The breaking point came when Dae-hyun, a human who called himself an adventure sports enthusiast, offered to show the aliens what humans did for fun on weekends. Taeho. Sunmi and Kiwan found themselves at the edge of a cliff, watching humans voluntarily throw themselves off the edge with nothing but fabric wings strapped to their backs. "This is base jumping," Dae-hyun explained cheerfully, putting on his own wingsuit. "You jump off high places and fly through the air before opening a parachute. Very relaxing after a stressful work week." "Relaxing?" Sunmi whispered, watching a human plummet toward the ground at terminal velocity. "Oh yes, nothing clears your mind like free-falling at 200 kilometers per hour." Dae-hyun checked his equipment. "Some people prefer bungee jumping. That is where you jump with an elastic rope tied to your feet. Others like skydiving from airplanes. I personally enjoy them all." Taeho watched in horror as human after human leaped off the cliff, screaming with joy as they fell. How many people died doing this? Not many. Maybe one in every few thousand jumps, and usually only when someone makes a mistake or has equipment failure. Daehyun spoke like these were acceptable odds. The risk is part of what makes it exciting. Kiwon could not process what he was seeing. You enjoy the risk of death? Life is risky anyway, Daehyun shrugged. At least this way, you get an amazing rush of adrenaline and some great views. Want to try it? I have extra equipment. All three aliens backed away from the cliff edge, their faces pale with terror. The weekend tour of human recreational activities continued. Daehyun took them to watch free climbing. Humans scaling vertical rock faces using only their hands and feet with no safety equipment. If they fall, they die? Taeho asked, watching a young woman climb a sheer stone wall hundreds of meters high. Usually, yes. That is what makes it challenging. Daehyun pointed to another climber. See how calm and focused she is? Free climbing requires perfect mental control. You cannot succeed if you are afraid. But why do it if falling means death? Because it is there. Because it is difficult. Because when you reach the top, you know you have accomplished something that most people could never do. Daehyun watched the climbers with obvious admiration. Humans need challenges. We get bored with easy things. The final stop on their tour was an underwater facility where humans were swimming with large predatory sea creatures. Shark diving, Daehyun announced. These are great white sharks, some of the most efficient predators on our planet. Swimming with them is an incredible experience. Sunmi watched a human in a diving cage descend into water filled with massive sharks. The predators circled the cage, occasionally bumping it with their snouts. That human is surrounded by creatures that could eat him, she observed. Yes, but the cage protects him. Mostly. Daehyun pointed to another diver who was swimming freely among the sharks with no protection except a thin wetsuit. That guy is really brave. Free swimming with great whites is not for beginners. Kiwon stared at the unprotected human swimming calmly among apex predators. Does he have a death wish? No, he is just very experienced and confident in his ability to read shark behavior. Most sharks will not attack unless they feel threatened or mistake you for their usual prey. Daehyun paused. Of course, sometimes they attack anyway. That is the risk you take. That evening, the aliens attended what humans called a cultural event, children's story time at the local library. Mi-young, a kindergarten teacher, was reading traditional fairy tales to a group of 5-year-old humans. The aliens listened in growing horror as Mi-young cheerfully recounted stories of children being abandoned in forests, people being eaten by wolves, houses being burned down by angry bears, and characters falling to their deaths from tall towers. And the wicked stepmother was forced to dance in red-hot iron shoes until she fell down dead. Mi-young read with animated enthusiasm. The children giggled with delight. Your children's entertainment involves murder and torture? Sunmi asked weakly. These are just fairy tales, Mi-young explained. They teach important lessons about good and evil, consequences of bad behavior and overcoming obstacles. Children love them, but why are they so violent? Traditional stories reflect the harsh realities of life. Children need to learn that the world can be dangerous, but good people can triumph over evil through courage and cleverness. Mi-young showed them more books. We also have modern stories that are less violent, but kids still prefer the classic tales. The aliens realized that human children were being indoctrinated from birth to accept violence, death and suffering as normal parts of existence, and the children enjoyed it. The next day brought an even more disturbing revelation when Byung-ho, a human paramedic, demonstrated basic first aid techniques. Human bodies are quite resilient, he explained, showing them medical training videos. We can survive losing up to 40% of our blood volume if we receive treatment quickly enough. 40%? Taeho asked faintly. Yes, we can also survive the loss of many organs. Kidneys, parts of the liver, sections of the brain, entire limbs. Humans have lived for years with artificial hearts, transplanted organs from other humans, and mechanical prosthetics. Byung-ho pulled up case studies on his tablet. This man lost both legs, one arm, and an eye in an explosion. He recovered completely and now competes in athletic competitions. Kiwon stared at the photos of the injured human who was now running races on artificial legs. How is this psychologically possible? Humans adapt very well to trauma and loss. We have strong mental resilience and social support systems. Plus, we are naturally stubborn. Most humans refuse to give up even when facing impossible odds. Byung-ho showed them more examples. This woman survived a plane crash, spent 3 days trapped in wreckage, walked 20 kilometers with broken bones to find help, and fully recovered. The medical demonstration continued with examples of human pain tolerance. Byung-ho showed videos of humans continuing to function despite injuries that should have been incapacitating. This soldier continued fighting after being shot 3 times. This construction worker finished his job with a broken back. This mother delivered her baby while trapped in earthquake rubble. Byung-ho narrated each case matter-of-factly. Humans can ignore physical pain when something important needs to be done. Sunmi took notes with shaking hands. Your species has evolved to function despite catastrophic physical damage? We had to. Earth is dangerous, human history is violent, and life is unpredictable. The humans who survived to reproduce were the ones who could keep going no matter what happened to them. Byung-ho put away his medical equipment. We also have very advanced trauma counseling. Humans can recover psychologically from almost any experience. That night, the 3 aliens held an emergency meeting in their quarters. They were all showing signs of severe psychological stress from their cultural observations. We need to contact the Galactic Council immediately, Taeho said, his forearms trembling. These humans are not just unusual. They are fundamentally incompatible with galactic civilization. They throw themselves off cliffs for recreation, Sunmi added, rocking back and forth in her chair. They swim with predators that could eat them. They think this is relaxing. Their children are trained to enjoy stories about death and violence, Kiwon continued. Their medical system is designed around the assumption that humans will be regularly damaged and need to be rebuilt. And they think all of this is normal, Taeho concluded. They have no idea that their casual attitude toward death, pain, and danger is unlike any other species in the galaxy. The aliens looked out at the human city, where millions of humans were going about their normal lives. Somewhere out there, humans were planning their weekend extreme sports adventures, reading violent bedtime stories to their children, and training to survive injuries that would kill most galactic species. All of it was just another ordinary day in the life of the most terrifyingly resilient species the galaxy had ever encountered. The question was no longer whether humans were ready for galactic civilization. The question was whether the galaxy could survive contact with beings who had made the impossible seem routine. These humans did not just think they were normal. They had normalized the extraordinary to such a degree that they could not see how remarkable they truly were, and that might be the most frightening thing about them. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 3 days after Taeho sent his urgent report. Representatives from 47 different species filled the Great Chamber, all talking at once about the human situation. Council leader Vex 9 called for order with her 6 arms. Ambassador Taeho, please present your findings about the species called humans. Taeho stood at the central podium, his diplomatic training barely keeping his voice steady. Honored council members, I must begin with a warning. What I'm about to tell you will challenge everything we think we know about intelligent life. The chamber fell silent. In 3,000 years of galactic civilization, no diplomat had ever begun a first contact report with a warning. Humans are not just another species seeking membership in our community, Taeho continued. They are apex predators who evolved on a Class 12 death world and have somehow convinced themselves that they are normal. Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the chamber. Class 12 death worlds were considered uninhabitable. Several council members thought Taeho was making a mistake. The planet Earth has experienced multiple extinction events that destroyed most life forms. Asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, and climate disasters that would sterilize most worlds barely slowed human evolution. They adapted to survive conditions that would kill our species instantly. Sunmi activated the holographic display showing Earth's environmental data. The readings made several council members gasp in horror. Humans live under constant attack from their own planet, she reported. Earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, and volcanic eruptions occur regularly. Their cities are built on fault lines, floodplains, and the sides of active volcanoes. They consider this normal urban planning. Representative cliques from the aquatic world spoke up. Surely they must live in fear of these disasters. No, Sunmi replied. They prepare for them, but they do not live in fear. Many humans deliberately visit dangerous areas for recreation. They call it tourism. Kiwon took over the presentation displaying human military data. Humans have been at war continuously throughout their recorded history. They have developed weapons capable of destroying their own planet multiple times over. Weapons they built to use against each other, he emphasized, not against alien invaders, against their own species. They created planet-killing technology because they were curious about nuclear physics. The chamber erupted in shocked conversations. Several species had never developed nuclear weapons at all. Most others had done so only after centuries of galactic contact and guidance. Are they planning to conquer the galaxy? Asked Representative Thule from the Military Alliance. That is the truly disturbing part, Kiwan replied. They are not planning conquest. They are planning defense. They assume that conflict is inevitable and want to be prepared. To them, interstellar warfare is just another future problem to solve. Council Leader Vex 9 raised a hand for silence. What about their social development? Surely a species advanced enough for spaceflight has evolved beyond primitive aggression. Tejo returned to the podium. Their social development is perhaps the most disturbing aspect of all. Humans have normalized behaviors that would be considered war crimes on most civilized worlds. The holographic display showed footage from human sporting events, children's playgrounds, and recreational activities. They gather in massive crowds to watch organized violence, bringing their families to celebrate injuries inflicted on participants. Their children are trained from birth to enjoy games that simulate predator-prey relationships. Their idea of relaxation involves throwing themselves off cliffs or swimming with deadly predators. Representative Zin from the Peaceful Collective stood up. Surely this is exaggerated. No intelligent species could be so casually violent. I wish it were exaggerated, Tejo replied sadly. But there is more. Humans consume other living beings as their primary source of nutrition. They have industrialized the killing of other species and consider it normal food production. Several herbivorous species representatives began showing signs of distress. The idea of intelligent beings routinely consuming other life forms was beyond their comprehension. They also voluntarily modify their bodies through surgical procedures, Tejo continued. They cut themselves open to repair damage, replace organs, and even alter their appearance for aesthetic reasons. They inject themselves with weakened diseases to prevent stronger diseases. They consume poisons recreationally. And they think all of this is normal? Asked Representative Moore from the Philosophical Union. Completely normal. That is what makes them so dangerous. They have no idea how extraordinary their capabilities are because surviving the impossible is their everyday reality. Sunmi presented her biological findings. Human bodies are designed to survive catastrophic trauma. They can lose limbs, organs, and massive amounts of blood and continue functioning. They can ignore pain that would incapacitate most species and keep working until the job is done. Their psychological resilience matches their physical durability, Kaiwan added. They recover from experiences that would cause permanent mental damage to other species. They adapt to any situation and refuse to give up regardless of the odds against them. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. They were not dealing with another ordinary species seeking guidance and protection. They were dealing with the ultimate survivors, beings who had been forged by the worst conditions in the galaxy and emerged stronger. Representative Quar from the Science Directorate asked, "What is their current technological capability?" "Rapidly advancing," Kiwan replied. "They went from basic spaceflight to faster-than-light communication in less than 50 years. They are already developing space-based defense systems. Their rate of technological progress is unprecedented." "Are they a threat to galactic peace?" asked Council Leader Vex 9. Tejo paused, choosing his words carefully. "They are not malicious. They do not seek conquest or domination, but they are the most dangerous species the galaxy has ever encountered, precisely because they do not realize how dangerous they are." "Explain." "Humans assume that all intelligent life is similar to them. They expect other species to be as resilient, aggressive, and adaptable as they are. They have no concept of how their normal behavior appears to other species." Sunmi activated a recording of their dinner with the human chef. Several council members became visibly ill watching humans casually consume dead animals while discussing the weather. "They offered to share their food with us," she explained. "They were genuinely confused by our horror. To them, eating other life forms is so normal that they could not understand why we found it disturbing." The debate continued for hours. Some species argued that humans were too dangerous to join galactic civilization. Others pointed out that their lack of malicious intent made them potentially valuable allies. Finally, Representative Elder Yoon from the ancient worlds spoke. She was the oldest being in the council, having witnessed first contact with dozens of species over several centuries. In all my years, I have never encountered a species like this. They are not evil. Evil can be understood and countered. They are not even truly aggressive. Aggression has limits and can be channeled. She paused, her ancient eyes reflecting deep thought. They are something far more remarkable and terrifying. They are survivors who have transcended the normal limitations of biological life. They have made the impossible routine and the extraordinary mundane. What do you recommend? Asked Council Leader Vex 9. We accept them into galactic civilization with a special classification. Culturally insensitive apex predators. We provide mandatory counseling services for any species that must interact with them diplomatically. We warn all member worlds about human normal behavior, and we pray to whatever cosmic forces exist that they never realize how terrifying they actually are. The vote was close, but humanity's application was approved with the special conditions recommended by Elder Yoon. 6 months later, Hyejin sent a cheerful update to the Galactic Council. Her message was forwarded to all member species as an example of typical human communication. Hello, everyone. We wanted to thank you for welcoming us into the galactic community. Integration is going very well. We have established trade relationships with 17 species and cultural exchange programs with 12 others. We are excited to announce that we are starting an intergalactic extreme sports league. So far, we have interest from the Asteroid Mining Guild for zero-gravity racing and the Deep Space Explorers for cosmic bungee jumping. We are also planning a galaxy-wide cooking competition featuring traditional foods from all member worlds. Our defense systems are nearly complete. We should be ready for any potential interstellar conflicts by next year. We have also begun work on what we call planetary protection protocols, ways to defend inhabited worlds from asteroid impacts, stellar radiation, and other cosmic threats. We figure other species might need help with these kinds of problems. Human children are very interested in meeting alien kids. We are planning pen pal programs and exchange student visits. The kids are especially excited about sharing their favorite games and stories with alien children. We look forward to continuing our friendship with all galactic species. Please let us know if there is anything else we can do to help.